Now, the criteria for verification is very simple. We first try and assess the credibility of the source which is relaying a particular information in a report. Now, let's say the report sources information from a very credible source, like say the BBC. We then try and assess the reliability of the information which is relayed by the BBC, and in this case we see if the information which the BBC relays is actually something which the BBC has confirmed for itself, or if it's something which the BBC is relaying from other unheard of sources. Now, say for instance the BBC relays a particular information quoting say unidentified sources. Now in this case the information is not necessarily reliable, even though it has come from a very credible source. So this is a key factor which we look for when trying to verify reports. And the other consideration that we have is to try and assess if the information which is contained in the report is accurate, and we try and do this by triangulating the information with other media sources, and we try to find at least two media sources which corroborate the information which is present in the original report. Dates are also very important in a report, because we always try and assess if the dates which are included in the report are accurate. Sometimes it may so happen that the information which is provided in a particular report might be accurate, but the event might have happened several weeks back, or maybe a few weeks back, but the report relays it as something which happened in the recent past. So in such cases we always make sure that the dates which are included in the report are accurate. And if the report mentions any casualties, we always make sure that the number or the type of casualties are accurate, or at least within an acceptable range. Now this range is something which is given to volunteers right at the start of the deployment. So casualty information is usually compared against a range which is already given to us at the start of the deployment. These are just a few verification criteria that we typically follow while trying to assess the veracity of reports. There are a couple of other factors that we need to consider when reviewing reports. This is especially the case if we are hard pressed for time and we have a lot of reports to verify. So first of all, we ask ourselves if a particular report is a high priority report. Now, how do we determine that? We basically try and use our discretion. If, let's say, we're dealing with a large-scale emergency crisis, and if we have a report which comes in which talks about casualty or a serious infrastructural damage, then this is a report which can be considered as a high priority report. And then we also try and assess if the report is old or if it is recent. Now this is something which we discussed a couple of slides back. If the report is a very old report, then we can shelve that to the bottom of the queue and work on some of the more recent reports. And once we're done with the recent reports, we can go back to the old reports. And we also try and assess if the incident or fact which is listed in a report's title has already been reported in, say, some other report. Now, sometimes it may so happen that the information is duplicated and might be available in 2 or 3 reports on the Ushahidi platform. So in such cases, if you sense that a report has already been worked on, has already been reported, then you can mark this particular report as a duplicate and simply skip that report. And in such cases, if you come across a duplicate report, just make sure that you notify your respective coordinator about the duplicate report, and the coordinator will take care of what needs to be done. So these are a few things that could help speed the verification process, especially when we are hard pressed for time. So moving on to the actual verification process, the first step in the verification process is to review the report. Now, what does reviewing a report mean? We basically just look at the report and see if everything is the way it should be. So the first step is that we read the description. We also can read the title and see if the title is in conjunction with what the description of the report is. And more importantly, in the description, we try and assess if the report speaks about just one event at a time. Now, sometimes it may so happen that the report might talk about multiple events. So in such cases, we flag the report to the coordinator, and the coordinator in turn will take it up with the media monitoring team and ask them to split the report, because as a rule of thumb, we try to restrict the information to just one event or one incident in one particular report. So always make sure when you start verifying a particular report, just go through the description and ensure that the information contained is just very specific to one particular event or an incident. Now, if the information is just right, and if you feel that it talks only about one particular event, then you can proceed with the verification process, which I will describe in subsequent slides. But if you feel the report conveys simply too much information, then you just stop, signal your respective coordinator, and this report is a sendback, which is one of the different kinds of reports that we talked about just a few slides back. So since this report is a sendback, just give the report number to your coordinator and skip the report. The coordinator will take care of the needful. So this is something which is very important. We always start by reading the description and making sure the description is right. The second step is once we're sure that this report talks about just one event, the second step is ensuring the accuracy of the media monitor's report. And how do we do it is that we first start by reading the original news source, and we try and check the veracity and accuracy of the media monitor's report. Now, the original news source will be in the news source link on the reports page. This is something which we saw in one of the previous slides. So just take the news source link, take the entire URL, paste it on your browser, and go through the entire news report and see that the media monitor has lifted the exact report from that particular news source link and pasted it onto the description box. Just so, in a sense, you just have to make sure that whatever the description box talks about is in conjunction with whatever this actual news source report talks about. So just make sure that the two match. Now, if there are any key facts which are missing, or if there is anything which has not been reported accurately in the description box, then just flag this particular report to your respective coordinator and skip that report. So always make sure that you read the description and then you try and analyze if the particular description fits in with whatever this report is actually about by looking at the original news source. And while you are looking at the particular news source link, also make a mental analysis of whether this particular news source is credible, whether it is a known source or whether it is a biased source. This is very important. It will form a very key point when it comes to your analysis. Now in this case it is CNN, so this is a known source, and this is really a trusted source. But in a lot of cases, especially in conflict situations, you might find that a lot of sources might be biased. So it's very important that you try and assess the credibility of the source as well. And the next step is to try and verify the media monitor's report. So in general, after confirming that the media monitor's report is accurate, the next step is to consult at least one trusted and independent source to verify the content of the media monitor's report. And how do you go about doing this? If a media monitor's report is based on a trusted source, then you must verify the report using one other trusted and independent source. So in this case, we have a trusted source, that is, we have CNN, which is reporting this particular news. So since CNN is already a trusted source, you can just try and corroborate this information which is relayed by CNN with one other trusted and independent source. I will explain what an independent source is in just a bit, but for now just keep in mind that if you are already talking about a trusted source, then it is enough if you find one other trusted source corroborating the information. Now if the media monitor's report is based on a non-trusted source, then you must try and verify the report using at least two trusted and independent sources. So the sources you rely on must support the media monitor's main point. So it's very important that the kind of sources you find support whatever this media monitor is talking about in that particular report. And there is an exception to this rule. If the report comes from a reputed NGO or from some other official who is representing a credible organization, like say the United Nations, then you can automatically verify a report. Such a report will be classified as an official report. If you remember, in the list of categories, such a report will be marked as official. So anytime you see an official report, you can simply directly verify the report. There is absolutely no need for you to try and triangulate it with other media sources. So this is the general rule that we try and follow for trusted, non-trusted and official reports. Now I keep talking about trusted, non-trusted sources, but what exactly are these? These trusted sources are some of the media sources which are reliable and are proven to be very trusted sources, and this list will typically be given to all volunteers right at the start of a deployment. Non-trusted sources are the sources that we need to be careful about, so it is very possible that these sources might be heavily biased, especially in case of conflicts, and they might even be out there to mislead and try and game the system. So all these lists of trusted and non-trusted sources will be given to volunteers right at the start of the deployment, and volunteers are always encouraged during a deployment, if they come across sources which they need to be careful about. If they come across heavily biased sources, then they can always report it to the coordinator, and the coordinator will add those new sources as well to the list of non-trusted sources. So a trusted source will typically be some of these reputed and credible organizations like, say, Reuters, the BBC, Al Jazeera, Amnesty International, etc. So these are basically the major mainstream news sources, and the coordinators might also add certain additional sources to this list based on experiences with specific sources during a particular deployment. So based on our past experiences with a lot of regional media sources, we might also choose to add a few unheard of sources to the list of trusted sources. So if this is the case, the source will be listed on a separate list, which will be circulated to all team members. And if you have any questions at all about a particular news source which is not listed, you can always feel free to ask your coordinators. And non-trusted sources are typically social media sources. So in general, any blog, any video on YouTube, any tweet, any account on Facebook, all these are generally considered as non-trusted sources. So in general, social media websites, personal blogs, opinion pieces, tabloids, uploaded videos are all considered non-trusted information sources. There are a few exceptions though to this. When you have, say, a certified Twitter account from someone who is let's say representing the United Nations, or a journalist from BBC who is tweeting reports from a location on the ground, in such cases these sources are considered to be trusted sources. Now please keep in mind that irrespective of whether a source is trusted or not, we always do try and verify this information with other sources before we mark a particular report as verified and not verified. So the trusted sources, in case of trusted sources, we would just try and find one other independent source which corroborates the information. In case of non-trusted sources, we'll try and find at least two other independent sources which corroborate the information relayed by the non-trusted source. So that's all the difference that we usually have between a trusted and a non-trusted source. So any social media source is usually considered a non-trusted source, and you also need to keep in mind that especially when it comes to videos on YouTube or other media sites, a lot of these videos might appear to convey relevant and accurate information about unfolding events from actual eyewitnesses, but in general we consider them to be unreliable because of our inability to verify the authenticity of each video. That is, when of the reported event actually occurred, the identity of the video recorder, the individuals impacted, etc., etc. These are things which we don't know. So we usually consider any video source or even an audio source for that matter to be non-trusted, and we try and corroborate this particular information which is relayed by these videos with at least two other media sources which corroborate the information. Now sometimes you might have videos which are released by media sources like the BBC or Reuters or Al Jazeera. In such cases, we consider this a video to be released by a trusted source. So in this case, we try and identify just one other source which would corroborate the information which is relayed in this video.